We have a ton of voice messages. This is after the Broncos game. We've got like 2 pages of questions. So let's go ahead, probably like 25 of them. So let's jump right into it. Voice messages, remember, speakpipe.com. If you want to sound off, you have 90 seconds to tell the face of the franchise exactly how you feel. Or just ask a random question. Doesn't have to be football related, sports related, can be anything. All right, Carnival with a K, so you know it's real. You're first.
Hey, James, I really love your channel. I've
Thank
been
you.
following it for a little bit now, but my question is, do you think there is any slight chance of a possibility if things don't work out with Dennis Allen and the team continues to trend in the way that they're trending, do you think there's ever a slight possibility that Klint, from what you've seen this year, would be a compatible candidate to become head coach for the team? I would like to hear your thoughts on this subject.
Yeah, I mean, sure, you would think any coordinator has the ability to do that. I think now in today's NFL, it's such a coaching is so interesting right now because it's so coordinator driven, and the head coach really, unless the head coach is like one of the best coordinators for whatever side of the ball, like Sean McVay is one of the best offensive coordinators in the NFL, right? But he is also the head coach. Kyle Shanahan, same thing. Matt LaFleur, same thing. But then you have coaches like Dan Campbell and coaches like Mike Tomlin, who they really aren't coordinators. They really aren't great coordinators. They rely on their coordinators, and they're more of like the man manager. So you have to wonder, like, what does Klint Kubiak want to do? Does he just want to focus on the offense? Does he have interest in the man manager side of the thing? Side of the whole thing? Does he want to be the one giving the locker room speeches? Does he want to schedule practices and travel and the logistics? Because if he doesn't, then there's no reason to make him be the head coach. So it's just a different, like, I think 10 years ago it was very much the norm of like good coordinator becomes good head coach. But we see it all the time, like with Spags and KC. Spags is a terrible head coach, great defensive coordinator. It is what it is, right? Ben Johnson last year for the Lions, incredible OC, turned down a bunch of head coaching jobs, stayed in OC. Maybe he said he just liked worrying about that side of the ball and didn't want to deal with the headaches of being a head coach. So it's hard to know what the person wants. It's hard to know what the person is interested in doing. I think Kubiak, I like his vision on offense. I like his philosophy. We've only seen 2 real games of it, but yeah, I mean, I think if he was interested in that and he got a nice season, 2 seasons of really being able to showcase his offense, I think he could be a potential head coach of the future. Richie, you're up next, my man.
James, over and over again, we keep hearing that Dennis Allen has said that, Spencer Rattler is
the birds chirping in the background. Richie, I mean, that's a picturesque, wherever you are recording
the
this.
best option for this game.
Yeah.
What are the odds that the Saints are trying to thread the needle here and tell Spencer Rattler he's going to be starting this Sunday, but Jake Haener, if they told Jake Haener, on the side on Tuesday, hey, we want you to start thinking about the game plan for Denver, then he'd be more prepared. And I know Denver's defense is significantly better than Tampa's, so that part of it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But if you don't have total confidence in either of your rookie quarterbacks, why not go with the wild card, Spencer? Maybe you can get through this one. And then, give the one that Dennis liked, Jake Haener, more time to prepare. And, hopefully you thread the needle and Carr's back for the next game after that.
Yeah, I mean, this is before the Bucs game, obviously, but I think it's kind of it's a really awkward spot with Haener. And this is what I said around the draft when we took Rattler. Like, sometimes players just get eaten up by the machine, and sometimes it's nothing, like the player didn't do anything wrong. It was strictly just like, coaches or years or the contract or different windows or whatever. And when Kubiak and Janoko took Rattler, that was it. Like that is it for Haener, because why would you waste that draft pick to develop a player if you think Jake Haener is your guy? And that's not to say Jake Haener isn't capable of being the guy. He's just not Kubiak's guy. He's just like he's the second choice. And you don't want to be the second choice in the NFL. So, Haener, he just kind of was dealt a weird hand, and but that is what happens. Just like if Allen gets fired and we bring in a new coach, and let's say next year we draft Quinn Ewers, 6th overall, just making something up. Well, guess what? Rattler's out. Like, Rattler's chance is over. Rattler's time is done. Rattler is the backup unless he goes somewhere else, because then Ewers is the guy. And it just kind of keeps rolling that way. So I don't think there's any plan to switch to Haener, or there's any interest in switching to Haener from the coaches. I think the only way Haener plays is if Rattler gets hurt, or if Rattler is so bad that they have to play Haener. And that's a pretty bad spot for the Saints to be in too. But unfortunately, I just think, unfortunately for Haener, I think it's just, he's just not their guy. All right, Anonymous, you're up.
Honestly, man, it's a miracle that we're even in games, because of these issues that we have stem from poor draft picks, horrible contracts, not resigning our top players. I blame the GM, to be honest, but we'll see how things go, honestly. But we're in a world of growing pains and stuff, because I feel like we're doing a soft reset. But hopefully we can, trust in Rattler and believe in him and build for the future, because Derek Carr and Dennis Allen really have to go.
That's the worst part. Like, one, we're not in games. But two, it's not like like, we whiffed on some draft picks, sure, like the Peyton Turner, Isaiah Foskey's of the world. But that's not even really the issue. It's such a weird thing, because our issue is more with our, like, good players. The issue is more with Demario Davis, Tyrann Mathieu, Cam Jordan, those players, like Carl Granderson, Chase Young. Like, those are the players that the problem. Like, Derek Carr, kind of irrelevant to what's happening right now. I mean, Trevor Penning's been pretty good this season. And so you can't even look at him like a wasted draft pick. There really isn't like a tried and true explanation of why all of a sudden we're the worst defense in the NFL. There's not really a tried and true explanation of why I just saw a stat that was the 502 rushing yards in 2 games is the 5th most ever given up, and it's the highest yards per rush ever. We're giving up like 7.2 yards a carry over 2 games. So, and that's not, like, you look at the players and that's not really a contract issue. Like, we're not giving up 502 yards or 502 total yards over 2 games because of bad contracts. We're not giving up 7 yards a carry because of, because we're overpaying players or kicking the can down the road. We're not doing that because of Derek Carr. So it's weird, because, like, I agree with some of the stuff. Like, I agree that Allen needs to go. I agree with that. The salary cap situation is not great. I agree with some of the draft picks being bust, but that's kind of like what do they call it? Like the straw man argument or whatever. Like, that's all that stuff just kind of is irrelevant when we're giving up 7 yards a carry. So, and we're definitely in a soft reset, though. I agree with that. Aaron, you're up next, my man. On a minute 29, threaded the needle. Just got in under the minute 30.
Yo, James, this is Aaron in Phoenix once again. As
Phoenix, there we go, baby.
always, love what you do on your YouTube
Much appreciated.
channel.
Yes.
Yeah, game just ended about 30 minutes ago. Oh, boy. Man, what a difference 4 weeks makes. We were going to the Super Bowl. We were Super Bowl winners, and now it's blow this team up. Yeah, the truth probably lies somewhere in the middle.
Agreed. To the words right out of my mouth. Yeah, I mean, it's 2 different teams, 2 very different teams, quite literally. The first 2 weeks, to the team that we've seen, that he recorded his after the Bucs game, but the team that played the Bucs and the team that played the Broncos, I mean, think about how different the starters are. Think about how different the actual players on the field are. So, yeah, I mean, life comes at you fast, no doubt.
thankfully the schedule is going to get a lot easier for this team, and we'll see if they're poised to take advantage of it with the just crazy amount of key injuries on the offense. We saw how difficult it is to manufacture offense, especially with the rookie quarterback, and we'll see if they're able to take advantage of that moving forward. But the big story for me today, and the obvious one, was the defense. I mean, 600 yards of total offense, 277 yards rushing allowed. That is like Georgia versus South Kakalaka State numbers, and we're seeing that at home with the supposed dome field advantage against a divisional foe.
And not to mention, he's talking about the Bucks, so that's Sean Tucker. Like, it's not like, oh, well, we're injured and they have, whatever, Derrick Henry. They have Sean Tucker. Like, Sean Tucker shouldn't even be on a roster, much less running for 140 yards.
Ooh, boy. 2 weeks in a row, they have not showed up. When I called you after the Philly game, I said I'm not worried about the defense, but I'm starting to worry about the defense. This is this a trend? Is 2 weeks in a row a trend?
It's more than that. It's 4 out of 5 weeks. Atlanta, no, that's not even true. It's 5 out of 5 weeks. Atlanta, we gave up 6.8 or whatever it was yards of play. Like, yeah, it's a trend now, and I agree with you. Like, after Philly, we were talking about the defense, and it's like, yeah, they'll figure it out. I mean, they're good. Like, it's just whatever. It is what it is. But 5 straight weeks, you give up 502 yards rushing to the combination of Sean Tucker, Bucky Irving, Jaleel McLaughlin, and Javonte Williams?
I don't know, man. That's some 2012 vibes right there. They better figure this out, or it will be all she wrote.
Aaron is 100% correct. 2012 was the year that we set the record for most yards given up in a season. Spags was the defensive coordinator, fired. Rob Ryan comes in. We are well on our way to that. We are well on our way to breaking records in 2012. A historically bad Saints defense. Sad. All right, Cash is up next.
Hey, I'm Cash calling in from Mississippi, and
There you go. There you go, Cash. From Mississippi, 228. Of course, everyone knows I was born and raised in Mississippi. Proud. Love the Magnolia State.
I have 2 questions to ask you. First question is, do you think there's any chance we keep Dennis Allen if we lose to Denver on Thursday Night Football?
No. And we ended up losing to Denver on Thursday Night Football. I am checking my phone every 20 minutes to see if Dennis Allen's been fired. If they don't fire him during the season, whatever. But there is absolutely 0% chance he's the head coach of the Saints next year, unless the Saints go on a miraculous run and win 10 games, win the division, whatever. But as of right now, no. 0% chance Dennis Allen is the head coach next year.
And second question I would like to ask you is, how did you think Spencer Rattler was against the Buccaneers? I thought he was quite good with the ability to extend plays with his legs.
Yep.
But yeah, since you were in the Dome, I would like to know your opinion on that. But yeah.
Good call. Thank you for calling. Yes, I think Rattler was fine. I think he was fine both games. I think he was in the worst situation possible. I think he got the hell beat out of him, and he's been sacked 11 times. I think I saw where he's been sacked on 25% of dropbacks, which is crazy. But I think Rattler's okay. I think he did all right. I would say he did as good, if not better, than Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams and Bo Nix did in their first 2 games. So, I would love to see what Rattler could do with he's played 2 games, and he had Chris Olave for, 2 plays. And the rest of it's been a bunch of Bub Means, Mason Tipton, and Cedric Wilson. So, Rattler's been dealt a tough hand. I think I like what I see so far. I mean, I'm not ready to say he's the franchise quarterback. He'll be the starter for the next 10 years, but I would definitely keep rolling him out there and letting him develop. CJ. CJ goes back-to-back. 1 minute, 30 seconds wasn't enough for CJ. Let's get it started.
I don't know what's going on right now, but all I know is if DA does not figure it out with this defense, he needs to go.
And this is before Denver, so,
I tried to be positive. I tried to defend him and try to be positive. And I know he's not a good head coach, which I agree, but should be arguably the best defensive minded coach in football right now.
Yeah.
And he's not even looking like it. Not even close. Like, he's literally looking below average.
I would cut my arm off for below average right now. He is looking dead last, 32nd, historically bad. I talked about this in a different video, but it's like, it's hard to even put into words what we're seeing because, you know, if you really think about it, like Dennis Allen was the #1 ranked defensive play caller at the end of last season. So let's just say he's top 5. Let's say like the rankings weren't perfect, but he's somewhere in the top 5 if he wasn't 1. Imagine who like you think is the top 5 offense. Let's say the Lions, the Ravens, the 49ers. Now let's pretend that offense keeps all of its players, and the next season they go to 32nd. How insane would that be? Like, think about if Patrick Mahomes all of a sudden went from the best quarterback in the NFL to the 32nd. Think about if the 49ers all of a sudden went from the best offense to the 32nd. It's like, it's hard to even fathom that. It would be unexplainable. And that's what's happening right now to the Saints. They went from top 5-ish on the defensive side of the ball to historically bad 32nd in the NFL bad.
Our defense is looking below average. Like, honestly, it's kind of crazy, though.
Again, not below average. I know he recorded this before Denver, but historically bad. Historically bad, not below average, not 16th in the NFL, not 18th in the NFL. Dead last. Historically bad, breaking records. Like, this will go down. If it continues, this will go down as probably the worst defense in Saints history. Think about that.
How the fuck we had like a ass offense, but the best defense last year. Now we at least have a somewhat salvageable average offense, and our defense just look like they're fucking lost. They look like lost puppies out there.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just confused on what Dennis Allen is thinking, and why hasn't he adjusted? Why hasn't he just fixed it? And why can't nobody fucking tackle? Like, I'm so confused. A lot of these players are veterans, and they don't know how to fucking tackle. Like, I don't know if it's because Dennis Allen is not teaching correctly anymore, or what it is. Or I don't know if maybe the head coaching job and mixing with defensive coach is not working for him since he has to see the head of everything. But at the end of the day, he needs to figure it out. If not, get the fuck out of here. I don't care anymore. Get the fuck out.
Hard to argue with that.
I'm back with a double message after my anger. On a positive note, Spencer Rattler looks pretty good.
Yep.
Like, he looks like he doesn't look lost. Like, yeah, he had a few.
Agreed. He doesn't look like Ian Book. I mean, he doesn't look like it's like, oh man, whoa, we gotta get him out of there for his own safety. Like, he looks like he could play.
Couple interceptions, whatever, bad throws. Probably didn't see a couple of plays, but he's a rookie, and it's his first game. I'm not gonna hold him. I'm not gonna hold that much up on him, especially since he's technically a 5th round. Even though I don't really agree he's a 5th round type of player, but still. But again, I think he has a future with us, and hopefully he does, because I love the plays that Kubiak was drawing up. I do love the plays of how they were having him roll out to the opposite side, and then just having him move around in the pocket. He didn't look lost too much though, so I thought that was good. I gotta say though, Kubiak needs to stop running Kamara up the middle on 3rd and short, like especially, it's just not working. I don't understand that. Bub Means is looking pretty good.
Means looked good in the Bucs game. In the Broncos game, Means was fine, but I think the problem was he was running like the deeper routes, and Rattler didn't have any time to get him the ball. So Rattler just was forced to find Tipton or find a check down. But I mean, like, kind of the same thing as last year, where those long developing routes with that kind of an offensive line, they just don't work together.
I say Bub Memes stepped up. I honestly think with more time and stuff, I think Bub Means could be a better option at 2 than Rashid.
I actually 100% agree with that.
And Rashid is fucking great, but we need someone kind of like how Bub Means was. So I think he could be a good compliment for Chris Olave.
I agree with that 100%. I think I mean, this is before Rashid's surgery, but I think Means is probably the better option at 2 right now. All right, Chris Swanson, you're up next, my man.
Hey, James, this is Chris. I'd just like to shout to you. You're the man, the myth, the legend, the best in New Orleans Saints media. You are the face of the franchise, and I love your content.
That's the comment of the day right there. That's the comment of the day. Unbelievable, Chris. So nice, I'm going to hear it twice.
I'd just like to give an honest assessment of the game real quick. And
the hell is
hey,
this?
James, this is Chris. I'd just like to shout to you. You're the man, the myth, the legend, the best in New Orleans Saints media. You are the face of the franchise, and I love your content. I'd just like to give an honest assessment of the game real quick, and then I want to ask my question. So,
sure.
Spencer Rattler was solid today. Derek Carr better get his Indeed account set up because Rattler, in my eyes, should have the starting job going forward. He looked solid today.
I would love to see what Rattler could do with this offense at full strength. I think the offense would look really good with Rattler running it. Like, nothing against Carr, but I think if Rattler could get the compliments of the entire offense, if the offensive line was there, Olave, Rashid, I think it'd be a really dynamic offense. I think Rattler would run it well.
But he can't help that the offensive line couldn't block to save their lives.
True.
He couldn't help that the defense was soft as Connell and didn't know how to tackle. DA should be fired.
Yes.
When Chris Godwin is playing pinball with our defense and bouncing off our defenders and open lane to the end zone, woo, there's the end zone. Or when Bucky Irvin on 4th and 2 just beast-quates our defense and runs for the touchdown.
Yeah, not good.
That's not going to cut it. DA, the only thing he had going was a good defense. That has diminished. He should be fired immediately. My question is, you've mentioned Mike Vrabel as head coach if they lose to Denver. Would you be open to Robert Saleh being the DC? And would you be open to a possible Klint Kubiak hiring as head coach? Or are there more options that we can consider for the future of our franchise?
I think right now you have to consider the biggest problem, besides the defense, obviously. But the biggest problem right now is that the Saints don't have a culture. Like, they don't have a culture. They obviously do not have a. They don't. Since Peyton left, we don't have an identity. We don't have a culture. We don't have a locker room leader. We don't have a locker room presence. We don't have a vision. So we got to have that in the head coach. I think it's a big ask for Kubiak to go from, hey, we know you've only been the offensive coordinator for this team for 7 weeks, and we know that this team has only had 2 games where the offense was even together, but now we want you to be the culture builder, the head coach, the logistical plan. It just seems like a lot. So I lean towards a guy like Vrabel who has done that, who has built a culture, who has been a head coach, a successful head coach, who is a man manager, is a players kind of coach. That's where I lean. Salah, as far as a DC, like, Vrabel was a DC. So if Vrabel's the head coach and he wants to hire Salah, I mean, fine. But I wouldn't want Salah to be the head coach by any means. But, like when Jacksonville fired Urban Meyer, the biggest thing they needed was a coach to come in and teach them how to be a professional football team. That's what Peterson did. And Peterson immediately made them at least just a team. Like, okay, this is how you do it. This is how you plan, game plan, travel, practice, whatever. And then you can worry about the actual, like, on field. But that's why I go to Vrabel. And honestly, like, Belichick I've always been against Belichick because he's older. And it's like, well, if we're rebuilding, like, do you really want Belichick to be the one heading that rebuild? Belichick wants a lot of GM power, which is the reason why he didn't go to Atlanta. I can't imagine he would get that in New Orleans because of Mickey. But I almost would be okay with Belichick because same thing. Like, if he comes in here for a couple of years and just instills a new culture and instills a new standard, I'll take that. Like, at this point, we just have to have we do not have the organizational structure and standard and all that of a winning football team in the NFL. We need a Jim Harbaugh, John Harbaugh type who's going to come in, plant the vision, create the culture, and create the new standard for this team. That is more important right now than X's and O's. And I think, I know it sounds like a lot, but I think a guy like Vrabel can check those boxes. And that I have a lot of fear when it comes to coaches like Ben Johnson and Bobby Slowick. Like, I love them as coordinators, but how confident am I that they do come in and instill that culture and instill that standard and all that? Like, you'd have to have some real conversations to be able to make sure they could do that. But that's how I would go about looking for the next head coach. Good call though, Chris. Anonymous.
Hey, James, this is Chris back at it with a doubleheader for the face of the franchise.
Wow.
Like, this is
Okay.
the MLB regular season.
Yes.
That was my best shot at Skrmetta for. Last time I asked about coaching. This time I want to play hypothetical GM. If Mickey Loomis were hypothetically fired and I were placed as GM, I would address the running back depth because Alvin Kamara's running up the middle in I formation 20, 30 times it seems a game is ridiculous. Kendre Miller, Jamal Williams is MIA. They've been kidnapped from the boot. We can't find them. Just like the kids from the border, they're missing. And Taysom Hill's hurt a lot now. Our offensive line, except for Fuaga and McCoy,
I'll give Chris this. He is on fire during these calls.
They're like trash cans being pushed on the sidewalk. It's ridiculous. I would build more on the offensive line. Our defense, Carl Granderson, Kool-Aid, Alante, Chase Young, Brian Brzee, we can build around them. Honey Badger's getting older. DeMario Davis getting older. Cam Jordan, please retire because you're not doing anything for our team this year. And Derek Carr, get your Indeed ready because Spencer Rattler is the future. So get on Indeed and go find you a job. We're offloading you after this year. That's some things I would do. But my question is, what would you do if Mickey Loomis were hypothetically fired and you were GM? What would be your steps to building around Spencer Rattler, rebuilding this team, and shaping it to be a contender in the future?
Good question. First thing I would do is get rid of the bad contracts. So I would get rid of aging players, bad contracts, offload them and get whatever you can. So, I'm trading Chase Young right now. And not that he's a bad contract, he's a 1-year contract. Trade him, get a third or a fourth. Kamara, same thing, bad contract. We're not going to restructure it. We're not going to extend him, so he'd probably walk anyways. Trade him, third, fourth, couple of fourths, whatever. DeMario, I would look to trade DeMario, Marshawn, Tyrann, if you can. If you can't, move off of him. Carr, move off of him. No harm, no foul to Carr, but contract is what it is. I'm looking for a coach then to fill Allen's spot. So I need a defensive coach, need a head coach. I would keep Kubiak and Janoko. I would build in the draft. I would probably end up taking an offensive lineman. Depends if I can find an offensive lineman that would fit the scheme. If not, I might take a defensive lineman or the best defensive player available to solidify that, and then find a lineman that fit the scheme later on. I don't think I would draft a quarterback. I'm not really impressed with any of the quarterbacks in this draft. And then I'd move forward. I would just kind of slowly build through draft capital. I would try and get young. So, you're looking at Kendre Miller, I guess, would be your starting running back unless you found something else. Taysom Hill's another contract I would get rid of. But you start slow. When you're in a rebuild, you start slow. I think the first two things you got to do in a rebuild is get your cap figured out and get young and get impactful players on team-friendly rookie contracts. You got to hit those. You got to hit your picks. You have to hit your picks, and they have to be impactful. So that's the first couple of things I would do. But the first year would be about building the culture and kind of stabilizing the roster, stabilizing the cap, stabilizing the contracts, and then you can kind of go from there. So that's the first thing I would do if I was appointed GM. And man, what a difference. I really believe this. I would have the Saints in the conference championship within 5 years. Jay from Houston, you're next.
What's up, James? I've been watching for a minute, man. I messaged your videos and stuff. Keep uploading and keep doing your thing. All right,
Thank you.
Here we go. First off, DA got to get the hell out of office. I don't know why he's still here.
Yeah, agreed.
I don't know what he's doing. A defensive mind head coach. Woohoo, we getting a good defense. No, the hell we're not. Okay, we can't stop when we need to stop when when it's the end of the game and the defense needs to show up, we run zone the entire way down the field, give up every short thing there is. We give up Narnia here and there, and then we put 10 people on the line, this dumb scheme that he does every single time, and then drop it back 8. And we don't have no pass rush, so we can't get to the QB. We don't hit him. And I'm not saying this like as the deep. I like the defense, but when they're on the field 35, 40, 35, 30 minutes of the game because our offense can't do nothing.
You know what's crazy about that? Like, I guarantee you, if you go and look at the first quarter numbers or the first half numbers, they're just as bad as the third quarter and the fourth quarter. Like, when you really put a magnifying glass on this defense, it is kind of mind-blowing. Because you would think, yeah, the defense is on the field for a lot. But then it's like, well, no, they're not. They're just bad all the time. Like, and then like you talk about zone and man. Same thing. We got burned for being in man against the Eagles. And then we got burned for being in zone against Kansas City. And it's just like damned if you do, damned if you don't. And that's usually a sign of a bad defense where whether you're in zone, you're getting beat. If you're in man, you're getting beat. If you're stacking the box, you're getting beat. If you're not, you're getting beat. If it's the first quarter, you're getting beat. If it's the third quarter, you're getting beat. Like at some point you look back like, man, damn, this defense just sucks. Like this defense is just bad. And that's where we are right now.
We can't run the ball because our line is terrible. And speaking to that, we run the ball 3 times back to back to back. We run the ball up the gut with Alvin Kamara. Not Alvin Kamara is you don't run the ball up the gut Alvin Kamara, first of all. And then obviously not with 3 interior linemen out. And then when it's not working, dog, what are you doing? The play calling is like night and day from the first 2 weeks to now. And it can't just be the injuries, man. Talk to me.
I think it is. I think the play calling is the injuries. I think when you have, the execution is so important in an offense like Kubiak's. I think when you're already asking like 4th string, 5th string players to play. You're asking, we're really thinking about the center. I know I always mention Connor McGovern and nothing against him, but just look at the situation. Who's our starting center? Eric McCoy. Who would be the backup? Cesar Ruiz. Who would be his backup? Shane Lemieux. Who would be his backup? Lucas Patrick. Okay, then what? I guess then is Connor McGovern. So you got like a 5th, 6th option to play center. So what really can you ask him to do? Like you can't ask him to be involved in these like intricate zone running schemes. He's only been there. He's been in the city for 2 weeks, right? Same thing with like these other players. You're moving players around so much. You can't ask him to. I think it just limits that like the actual plays that he wants to run. Same with the wide receivers. Like if you're designing plays for Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed, because remember, we want to run like two tight end, 2 back, heavy personnel sets. So you're expecting Rashid Shaheed and Chris Olave to be on the field the majority of the time. Well, all of a sudden, the plays that are being run for Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed, you have Mason Tipton and Cedric Wilson out there. And it's like, well, this is a little different now. Like these routes don't really work as well when you don't have the players out there. But then you also factor in, well, we can't even be in the heavy personnel because Spencer Rattler is our starter, and on short rest, he is more comfortable out of shotgun with 3 wide receivers. So all of a sudden now you're like, I'm not running the packages I want. I don't have the players I want. I can't ask the players to do certain things because they don't know. They just haven't been here. And I also have a 5th round rookie quarterback and a 5th round wide receiver out there. So I think it is kind of the injury situation on the offense. I think the offense is incredibly handcuffed of what they can do because of those injuries. Defensively, I'm at a loss. I'm with you. I'm at a loss. I don't know why they're so bad, but they are historically bad. Thank you very much for the call. Anonymous, you were next.
What's up, James? Man, oh man, 2:30 a.m. Monday, October 14th.
Damn.
Looking back on this game that I had to watch,
So this is 2 a.m. after the Bucs game.
To sit down and take this beating that we just had to do, man. I don't know what we're doing on defense. DA, please get out of the office. Get out of Louisiana immediately, wherever you go. Hope you do good, but you ain't doing good here. I don't know what he does. He shows blitz, he shows 10, drop back 6 every single time, And then we can't get pressure with the 4 we got. We got 90-year-old Cam over there. Love.
What's crazy is our pressure rate is through the roof. We just can't get sacks. Like Chase Young and Carl Granderson have a high pressure rate. They just cannot get it home. They cannot sack the quarterback.
Cam to death, but he's past his prime. Chase Young, 20 injuries to his leg. He ain't got no more explosiveness. Carl Granderson, the best thing we got on the line. Carl Granderson has been great this year. Brian Bassey's been great this year. But we can't get no pressure like that. You know, and then when they're on the field, 30, 35 minutes a game, they don't get tired. Miss tackles like crazy. Bucky Irvin looking like prime LT. Feel me? And then offensively, we can't adjust at all. None. Todd Bowles comes out after we came back 27-24 at half. You know, starts blitzing the QB, the rookie QB, with a weak O-line, 3 injured O-linemen interior. Of course, blitz him, right? It starts working. But then Klint Kubiak should look at this and say, let me go adjust. But no, he doesn't. If Klint Kubiak can only perform whenever we're fully healthy, he's a bad coach, dog. Talk to me, man. Is it just injuries or what is it?
Yeah, I mean, I think Kubiak, like, I just don't think he has the horses to adjust. Like, I think he's just kind of hamstrung with what he has. I mean, I'm guessing because I've only seen 2 games of it work, and now we're kind of on this like 5 game where there's just no players. So I don't think they're like at a certain level. There is no adjustment to be made, right? Like at a certain point, you're looking around and you're just like, how could I adjust? Like what adjustment even is possible? I have Mason Tipton and Bub Means and Cedric Wilson. I have, I have 3 linemen. 75% of my line are fourth on the depth chart. So, we always talk about like people fitting schemes. People are just playing in positions because they just are the last leg. Like they're the last player we have on the depth chart. So, it's kind of like if you were playing Madden or NCAA, and if you're down, like just injuries happen, you're down like a 65 overall left tackle, a 52 overall left guard, a 51 overall center, a 57 overall right guard, and a 65 right tackle, and a 67 overall quarterback. Like what adjustments can you really do? Right? If you're playing Madden, if you're playing NCAA, what would you do? Because it's like, what adjustments can I actually make? Like these guys can barely even play. They're barely even NFL roster level players. So, like the chess match, the adjustment thing, like it kind of goes out the window. You do have to have, the level of player. At a certain point, like, that does become a critical mass. Like you hit critical mass of injuries to where, what can you do, right? Like you kind of, I don't want to say like you just wave the white flag, but it is difficult to adjust. George Michael, 37 seconds with the face of the franchise.
This might have been one of the worst Saints games I've seen in a long, long time. Your 5th-round rookie quarterback actually put up 27 points. That should be enough to win you a game with this defense.
Yeah.
Do you think the players quit on Dennis Allen against the Buccaneers? You don't miss that many tackles if you're playing with some faith and fire. It felt like the defensive players quit on him. Dennis Allen should manage to rally his defense and help his rookie quarterback, who gave them a very good chance to win the game. He got 0 help from what is supposed to be a defensive mastermind. What a total implosion. Embarrassing.
George Michael, you got one hell of a voice. I'm getting goosebumps. I felt like that was a call from the guy who does the movie trailers. That was unbelievable. The voice. I just don't buy the whole quit thing. Because think about it. It's 27-24 at halftime. The defense should be, why would you quit there? Right? Like, why would you quit on Dennis Allen when you're up 3 at home against a division rival in a must-win game? And then, like, doesn't that seem like a weird time to quit? So I find the whole quit thing really hard to buy into. I think the quit idea is almost like kind of like a crutch for some of the players or to kind of put them off the hook, where it's like, they're not that bad, they just quit. It's like, well, maybe they actually didn't quit and they are that bad. Like that's kind of a scary thought, right? So I don't buy into the quit thing. It last night, like maybe with the Broncos, maybe, because the game got out of hand kind of quick. But the Buccaneers, I don't buy the quit thing at all. I don't. I mean, because then you also had to factor in like they had 3 turnovers or whatever in the second quarter. So I just don't see it. I think sadly the answer is that they're just bad. Like the answer is that it's just a bad defense, and that's the harder answer to accept. But I think it's probably closer to the truth.
Hey James, hope you're doing good, man. I gotta say, I'm not even mad anymore at this team. I'm more disappointed. I'm just genuinely disappointed. I'm disappointed in the organization, the coaching staff, just honestly, just everybody.
Yeah, I mean that is kind of close to what most people are saying. Where it's like I'm not even mad. I'm just kind of like disappointed and apathetic now. It's hard to be mad, honestly. It's hard to like. It kind of sounds crazy. Like we were in the dome for the Broncos game, and it sounds insane to be like watching the defense give up 7 yards per rush and being like, man, I don't know, maybe we should have some more stunts or something. Maybe we should play press coverage. Maybe we should try man. It's like you can't really do anything. Like you're watching it and you're like, it doesn't really matter what defense we call. It doesn't really matter who's out there. We're just getting rolled over. And when you're just getting rolled over for 5 consecutive weeks, I mean, at some point you do have to throw your hands up and just say like, okay, well, I mean, this is just terrible. Like I can barely watch this.
I mean, I'm disappointed in Kubiak at that too. I know we're injured we're pretty thin, pretty much ever on the offense, but I just can't believe there's no way. And I know Broncos arguably has the best defense, but there's just no way you can't cook up something. Like the best you have is these dump passes Kamara's getting. That's pretty much probably going to get him more injured. Just running him up the middle, barely using Kendre. It just doesn't look good.
It does not.
DA needs to be fired. Simple as that.
Agreed.
He has to go. At this point, I don't care anymore. He needs to go. The defense looks terrible. Defense doesn't even look like they're trying anymore. They just look like they give up. Like the whole team looks like they've given up. And there's no way it took all the way until the end to score. It took all the way until Jake Kanter to actually score a touchdown. It's just ridiculous.
It is.
Like that's just unacceptable. Like generally unacceptable. These past 4 games has been terrible. And I have watched the 7 and 9 seasons. And those are pretty bad. But it just feels worse.
I agree. I think this is the worst. These 5 games are the worst 5 games I have watched probably in my lifetime. Because even other times it's like, okay, well, yeah, we're losing, but it's not like this. Like this is historic. This is a historically bad defense with a historically injured offense. And it's just disgusting week in and week out.
What's up, James? This is CJ here, man, recording this immediately after the Broncos lost. I don't know what to feel anymore, man. Like, I look on Twitter and everybody's victory lapping, like, oh, I told you the Saints are garbage, and this, and that, right? But then when you try to argue the injuries thing, everybody acts like it doesn't matter. The fact that we're missing like half the team, half the starters. You look at the Rams, they're
more than that.
1-4. The 49ers were struggling when they were missing their key guys, but for some reason the Saints don't get that same leeway. It just feels like I'm fighting a losing battle here. Like what if everybody else is right? No matter what they're saying. But see, I think about that, but I think just like, dude, we don't have anybody. We're playing people who couldn't even get snaps during the preseason game.
Yeah, we're playing a bad preseason lineup. We are pretty close to like an NFL Europe level team whenever that was a league. We're kind of like a team of they're good enough to be drafted, or signed, but they're not good enough to make rosters. And that like little in between, like NFL Europe, practice squad, like the whatever it is, the national football, like what was it, NSFL or whatever it is, the USFL. It's like we're kind of that team, and we're playing NFL teams, and you see what's happening. I mean, I would say that Spencer Rattler's receivers at South Carolina are better than his current receivers now. I mean, I really don't know if they are, like, you know how you always talk about, well, if the number one team in college played an NFL team, they would get smoked, the team in college. I don't know if they would get smoked by the Saints right now. Like, if Georgia played the Saints or whoever, if Texas played the Saints, is Bub Means and Mason Tipton and Cedric Wilson, are they that much better than the receivers at Texas? Is Connor McGovern and Lucas Patrick, and are they really just going to hold up against the Texas front? Like, that's kind of where we're at right now. That sounds insane, but we are so far down the depth chart. We kind of are in that world. I mean, on a majority of rosters, like Mason Tipton and Bub Means are practice squad players. Connor McGovern, literally 10 days ago, was not even a practice squad player. He was not on a roster. So it's a really weird thing to look at, but we kind of are playing with like a minor league roster.
So it's like, what do you expect? But I don't know, maybe if it's just because it's immediately after the Broncos beat down, but I don't know what to look forward to anymore, man. Like, Rattler didn't look good, and it's not all him, but he didn't look good. The defense is garbage. We don't have an edge rusher. We can't run the ball. Our receivers, I don't even believe in Chris Olave anymore. Like,
I mean, he's not even there. He hadn't even been there for 2 games. You know, it's like I whenever I do my reactions and stuff in my previews, I sometimes I forget to even mention Taysom Hill because he hasn't played in weeks. So it's like players that should be there, I'm forgetting are even hurt. You know, like Chris Olave, Chris Olave is awesome. I think he's the man. He hadn't played in 2 weeks, or 2 games. So, you know, at some point it's like, but it is deflating. I don't blame you for that. It is brutal because, like you said, there is nothing to look forward to because the players, like, it sounds disingenuous if you're sitting here like, you know, I'm excited for what Mason Tipton can turn into. It's like he's not going to turn into anything. You know, like he's a highest ceiling. He's like a third receiver. You know, like it sounds crazy to sit there and be like, well, I'm just watching the development of, you know, Jordan Mims. It's like, brother, you know, like, come on, like there's not. It's just a lost season right now, and we just got to get through it.
I don't know, man. Life of being a Saints fan, dog. I just want to say one more thing as well. Like, my overall analysis of the team is Carr is okay. Our offensive line is garbage. We can't run block. Alvin Kamara did what he can when he got something to work with, but ever since then we can't run the ball. We don't have a tight end. Juwan Johnson and Foster Moreau, get them off my team. Chris Olave is not a wide receiver 1. He's a high-end wide receiver 2. Rashid Shaheed is not a wide receiver 2. He's a wide receiver 3. Going on over to the defense, our defensive line is garbage. Carl Granderson is a high-end edge number 2. Chase Young sucks. We don't have an edge 1. Our defensive tackles, at some point, Brian Brzee has to start putting it on the field. We don't have any run-stuffing defensive tackles. We
definitely don't have that. I think Brian Brezee's been pretty good, but Brian Brzee is more like a pass-rushing defensive tackle. We just have no run stop at all.
Can't stop the run. Our linebackers are slow. I love Demario Davis, but it might be time for him to hang it up, man. Hey, speaking of hang it up, Cam Jordan, get him off the team, bro. I hate seeing him on the field now. That's how bad he is now. Debo broke his leg, but you know, leading the league in penalties. Like, don't re-sign him. Let him walk.
Oh, he's walking. I mean, he's a free agent. He was going to be a free agent anyways, but yeah, he's done.
Both our safeties are garbage. Yes, including Tyrann Mathieu. He's always getting cooked. I don't care how many interceptions he has. In one-on-one coverage, he can't cover anymore. Will Harris sucks. Marshawn Lattimore is still good. I hate the whole rebuild thing, but man, it just seems like it's staring us right in the face, and we can't ignore it anymore, man.
I agree. If like when we still had, a top 15 defense and all this, it's like, okay, we don't have to rebuild. You can win with a good defense. But right now, you look around, I agree 100%. It's like, you have to rebuild. Players are terrible. The results are horrible. They're historically bad. You have to rebuild. You don't have a choice. Michael Thomas dropping in for 4 seconds.
I would like to off myself.
Hey, there you. What else can you say, ladies and gentlemen? All right, Seth, 31 seconds. So these are all after the Broncos game. So, these are all going to be very emotional, for sure.
It's over. We had a good run. 2017, 2024. Time to blow it up. Get the vets out of there. Start this 2-year rebuild because this won't change in a year. Got to get Dennis out of there too. Fine with Klint Kubiak taking over for now, but definitely need a new head coach. Everything has to change. It's over with. No hope. This is disgusting.
Yeah, all that. I can't argue that. I can't argue any of that. And I think it is time for a rebuild. Bad news, though, is unless we hit a Joe Burrow-esque player, it's not going to be a 2-year rebuild. This is like a 4-ish year rebuild. You have to, when you are losing, think about the turnover, the amount of our roster that's going to change. If we are truly going into a rebuild, you're going to have a new quarterback, a new running back. You're going to have more than likely new tight ends. So 2 new tight ends. You're going to have a new defensive end, at least 1. You'll have a new linebacker, at least 1. You'll have probably 2 new cornerbacks. You'll have probably 2 new safeties. You'll have a new defensive coordinator, and you'll have a new head coach. Filling all that is going to take 4 to 5 years of a rebuild, I think. Drewski.
Hey, James. You are the man, the myth, and the legend. I love your channel. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
My question, I guess, is do you ever see a Ben Johnson or a Bobby Slowick or any other coach besides what we have right now in New Orleans ever considering a job offer or taking the job offer if Mickey Loomis would ever, invite them for an interview? I'm asking because I just don't know if the franchise right now is an attractive job offer. It just feels like with all the contracts and the older players and Derek Carr and, Spencer Rattler being a project, I just don't know if a coach that is trying to win and win now would ever try and take the job. So thank you again, James. You are the man.
Probably not. You're right. You're right on the money there. You probably, if you are Ben Johnson, if you're Ben Johnson, you have the pick of the litter. You're the most coveted coaching prospect. Why would you choose to come to New Orleans? You are in a full rebuild. And if you are in that rebuild, your cap situation is horrible. Yeah, I wouldn't want that job. So I agree with you. Those kind of guys like Ben Johnson, Bobby Slowick, the top coordinators, yeah, they would pass on the job for sure. No doubt about that. So, and that's and not to mention how desirable is New Orleans of a landing spot whenever you've got some other media markets and cities and franchises. So yeah, no, I think we'll end up getting some kind of a retread, kind of like a Mike Vrabel, kind of like a coach like that. I think we just got to kind of pick the pieces up. And if you're Ben Johnson, I would guess Dallas will have a head coaching vacancy. So would you rather go to Dallas? Not that Dallas is the most appealing place in the world, but If you look at Dallas, you're looking at their roster versus our roster. It's like, man, I mean, geez, CeeDee Lamb would be our best. CeeDee Lamb would be our best like lineman, much less receiver. So yeah, I agree 100% what you're saying. Like I don't think we'll be in the market for like a Ben Johnson or a Bobby Slowick or any kind of player like that or a coach like that. Anonymous.
Hey, James, this is Chris, and let me get straight to the point. This Broncos Saints game was a travesty.
It was.
Drew Brees deserved better, even though he gave us a powerful moment with a chant that gave us so many memories.
The walkout was incredible. So in the dome, so they did the defensive starters, and then Brees walked out of the tunnel. And man, I had goosebumps. It was a hell of a moment, and then things went south quick.
That we miss as fans. And when he said win, 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 that was back then, but now we're lose, lose, lose. And Sean Payton whipped our ass today like he did to other teams as head coach of our team for 15 years. Man, we miss Sean. Let's get straight to the point. Alvin Kamara was MIA. Where the hell was he? Jamal Williams, 3 to 4 carries. Get him off the team. He's a waste of cap space. Kendre Miller, he's like Bigfoot. We finally found him because there's a sighting of him in 2024. It's crazy.
Yeah, Kendre looked okay towards the end there. Now you also wonder, like, was Denver, what were they really doing anything at that point? But I thought Kendre towards the end did look good.
The defense, it's like Richard Sherman said at the halftime show. They're giving up on Dennis Allen, it seems, and all them injuries is crazy to me. What the hell are we doing for health and nutrition? Where the hell is the pressure on Bo Nix? Easy interceptions dropped. 5 men trying to bring down Javonte Williams at once. It's crazy to me. Our offensive line are trash cans being pushed on the sidewalk still. Like, what the hell are we doing? Mickey Loomis needs to be on the hot seat. Dennis Allen, he needs to be fired immediately tomorrow on Friday. So what are your steps 1 through 5?
1 through 5 would be fire Allen. I guess this year you can't really get a head coach till the offseason. But then I would start. Step 2 would be trade who you can trade for capital. So Alvin Kamara, Chase Young, Marshawn Lattimore, Demario Davis, like players like that you can probably trade to contenders. They would probably want them. Trade them. Step 3 would be in the offseason, figure out your contract situations. So get out of bad contracts, Carr, Tyrann, whatever you got to do. Shed that. Shed the bad money. Then in the offseason, step 4 would be hire your new head coach, build culture, build a new vision, identity. And then step 5 would be get younger through the draft, start filling positions because you just lost like 70% of your roster. So fill with impactful players on rookie contracts. You do that enough times over, then you're kind of like a piece away. And if you do that, you can either then go get your guy, like a Jared Goff, like with Detroit, or draft your guy, like a Joe Burrow with Cincinnati.
Hey, James, this is Chris. I set that last message on accident, but let me just finish my thought for that last message. It's just a travesty. Dennis Allen needs to be fired. Mickey Loomis needs to be on the hot seat.
He will not be.
Like, we need to rebuild around Spencer Rattler. He looked solid with what he had, but when his wide receiver core is Cedric Wilson, Bub Means, and Mason Tipton, what the hell is he supposed to do?
Yeah.
Like, it's just crazy to me how we expect him to look like an all-pro.
Yeah, I think Rattler's viable enough to where it's kind of like, I think he's better than Aiden O'Connell, but it's kind of like O'Connell with the Raiders, where you're not so concerned about filling the quarterback role because it's like, okay, this guy's viable enough. Like, he's okay enough. Worst case scenario, he's just below average. Best case scenario, he develops a little bit into a decent young quarterback. So I would not be that pressed with figuring out the quarterback position. I'd be okay with Spencer Rattler moving forward for the rest of this season and next season until he proved like, okay, he just can't play. But yeah, I'm fine with Rattler.
Like C.J. Stroud or Jay Daniels with a lack of weapons. Like, I know.
Well, don't forget, like, Daniels and Williams were really bad in their first 2 weeks with much better weapons and a much better situation. So It's not crazy for a rookie quarterback to struggle out of the gate, even with good weapons.
Mentioned Mike Vrabel.
Yeah.
I kind of like Ben Johnson too. I kind of like Robert Saleh as the DC.
Problem with Ben Johnson is if you're hiring Johnson, you're firing Kubiak, and you're obviously firing Allen. So then, like, do you want to? Is it worth it firing Kubiak? I don't know. You also do have to wonder, like, is Ben Johnson? You had to have some really, really deep conversations with Ben Johnson, because on one hand, you could be hiring the next Sean McVay. Sure. On the other hand, he's never been a head coach. You desperately need a head coach who can just instill a standard and a culture for this team. And it's a very unknown with Johnson. We know he can call a hell of an offense, but can he instill the culture and all that this team needs? I don't know. And that you would have to have some intense conversations that aren't just about X's and O's. It's about, like, how is he going to, like, what is his brand of football? What is, like, it's crazy, but we need, like, a Dan Campbell. We need a Dan Campbell at the helm more than we need Ben Johnson, because we have Kubiak. So I would rather have Dan Campbell as our head coach and Kubiak as our OC than Ben Johnson as our head coach and just with a bunch of mystery. So the Saints are in a very weird spot.
Maybe you think different, but the question I was asked last time before I sent that message on accident was, what would be the steps that you would take if you were GM to build us into a contender? What would your steps be immediately, like your first year, which would be next year, this next offseason, to, let's say, year 3, year 4, year 5? What would be your plan to rebuild us into a winning culture, rebuild us into a contender that we used to be, that would make Drew Brees proud?
Yeah, I mean, I laid out the steps. I was on the same wavelength. A long time ago, I worked in marine aquaculture. And if you don't know what aquaculture is, it's like sustainably growing, basically not growing fish, but raising fish, and what we did was oyster aquaculture. So we would create oyster beds and oyster reefs that were not out in the elements, because at the time the reefs were all messed up from hurricanes and from the BP oil spill and all that stuff. So, but with the aquaculture, the most important thing is that at that time, like the oysters, that they took to wherever they were. Like, you could put them on a big slab of concrete. If they didn't take to it, you just had to restart, right? So the most important part of this 5-step process or 5-year plan is that what you do at the beginning takes. Like, let's say you hire Ben Johnson. Well, let's say Ben Johnson is the next Josh McDaniels. Like, let's say he's not the head coach that you think he is. Well, then you got to restart. And if it doesn't take, then that sets back your program. It sets it back, it sets it back, it sets it back. So it's hard to outline the full 5-year plan, because you got to hit on so many steps along the way. Same with draft picks. Like when the Jets took Zach Wilson and hired Robert Saleh, it's like, all right, we've got our guys. They missed on both, right? Like they missed the Jaguars. All right, we got Urban Meyer, we got Trevor Lawrence. We're good to go. Missed on both. So, it's very difficult because you have to hit early on either your coach or your players or whatever. Even Philly. Like, look at Philadelphia, right? They get Sirianni, they get Jalen Hurts. They're thinking they're good to go. Steichen leaves, Gannon leaves. All of a sudden now, how good is Hurts? How is Sirianni on the hot seat? So you can even have like a fake take where you're thinking, okay, we're good. We're set for a long time. And then next thing you know, shit, we're firing Sirianni and we might be replacing Jalen Hurts. Cincinnati. Zach Taylor, he's our guy, right? Next thing you know, damn, do we need to fire Zach Taylor? So it's hard to find your John Harbaugh. It's hard to find your Jim Harbaugh. It's hard to find those coaches. It's hard to find your Andy Reid. Don't forget, Andy Reid got fired, right? So it's tough. It really is. It really, really is. New England. New England's in a situation now where Gerard Mayo, is he the guy? And is Drake May the guy? Like, are they on year one of a 5-year plan? Or after this year, are they still going to be stuck at 0? So it's hard, but the most important thing for the Saints, I think, right now is to find the vision, to find the identity, to find the culture, to find that next Sean Payton. Timo.
Hi, James, and greetings from Finland.
Finland! Wow. All right. Finland. Awesome stuff.
Happiest nation in the world, but today maybe not so happy. Lived through some frustrations those years after the Super Bowl, but this is something else.
Yeah, it is.
Something whole lot of else.
This is the worst time I can really think of as a Saints fan since Sean Payton and Drew Brees. Since that started. So we're talking 20 years. Oh, yeah. This is the worst stretch I can remember.
Else enough that I wouldn't probably show up to games no more and vote with my wallet if I was in the US, but that's not an option for me.
Yeah.
But let's be honest, we can't blame the players for this. For example, a QB can't succeed if he has 5 wax dummies standing in front of them. And I'm not blaming the O-line as well. It's the coach's job to elevate something good out of an average player with these injuries. And we know our coaching isn't elite, but hasn't been even average.
No.
I'd argue that it
Yeah.
hasn't. But there won't be a full reset. They will probably run it back with Carr, so could John Gruden be an option in this situation? Don't know. But something tells me that they will make a 4-5 game celebratory run again at the end of the season, blame everything on DC Woods because Carmichael isn't in the house anymore and run it back with DA. So that's my 2 cents, and I will be missing Saints football this season because I can't watch this crap for a while anymore. Keep up the good work, man. Love your work.
Well, Timo, if you quit watching the Saints, I hope you continue watching the channel. I don't blame you not wasting your time watching that product. But I do think they will get rid of DA. And I do think if they get rid of DA, Derek Carr is gone just because of contract issues. So I do see a reset coming. I don't see any world where they run it back with Dennis Allen. I do not see that happening. Dylan St. John. 3 names. Here we go.
Hey, James. Calling you from Ontario, Canada.
Oh, okay. There we go. Ontario, Canada, north of the border. Love it.
We suck. We're not good.
True.
We're the worst we've been since I've watched.
Yes.
In my entire life.
Yep.
This feels worse than 2005. This is bad. This is a bad team.
Yep.
This feels like a team that's nowhere close to winning anything.
100%.
This feels like where do you even go from here? Like, I'm not one to care about cap space because who cares, right?
Fugazi, monopoly money. No one cares.
But right now, some of these players where you were expecting to get another 2 years out of them, 3 years out of them, and then kind of move away, they suck. And, we can't get rid of them. But some of them don't look like you can start them. And I don't know what you do with that. We're just not good. We're so far away. Offense is too banged up. I find it hard to place any kind of real blame on them. Obviously, it's next man up. But
yeah, I agree. I mean, you can't. I'm with you. You can't be like, man, we need more out of the offense. How much can you really expect out of this offense right now?
You go down, 9 of 11 starters on your offense. Yeah. There's only so much you can do, right? You got millions of dollars sitting in Oshner's right now, just waiting to come out. And it's not like in 2012, 2015, it was like, okay, let's get a new DC in here. Let's get some pieces around Drew, and let's do some things. And that felt right. But now it's just a disaster. This is the worst team I've watched in ever. This is bad. Let me know where you think we should go.
I agree. I think you can make a real case that this is the worst Saints roster since the Aints days because of the injuries, because of who's playing where. Most of these players are not NFL level players. So you could argue this is probably the worst just roster we've ever had. Then you look at the defense, and right now we are historically bad. If the pace keeps up, you're going to look at, and also not only did we have a USFL offense, but we also have the worst Saints defense in the history of the Saints. And so those coupled together, makes for a horrible, horrible product. Jay, you're up.
What's up, James, man? Um, the Saints, man, they have been a disappointment week in and week out for the past 5 weeks.
Yes.
Dennis Allen, like you said, has to go. I think
Yep.
Dennis Allen is he I don't want to say the locker room quit on him, but he doesn't have control of the locker room. I think that's a better saying for. I think he doesn't have control of the locker room.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree. I think the problem with DA is that when things go south, and we saw this last year, when things go south for the Saints, they don't believe in him enough to like come back. They don't like when Sean Payton's there. It's like, okay, we believe in this guy. Like we're going through some hard times, but he'll get us out of it. I don't think the players have the faith in Dennis Allen that when things are bad, he can get them out of that spiral. And Dennis has not shown he can do that. So why would they believe he could do that, right? So that's how I would frame it. Like I don't think they've quit on him, but it's like if you're lost in the woods, like you're going to keep walking forward. You know, like you're not going to lie down and just die in the woods. But if you have a guide who you have no faith is going to actually get you out of the woods, it's a different vibe, right? Like if you're with, the greatest guide in the world, you're confident you will find your way out. Just keep going forward, keep trusting him, we'll be good to go. If you've got a guy who you're like, I'm not sure this guy knows what he's talking about. I'm not sure if this guy can get us out. It's a very different environment. And I think that's how I would frame the Saints locker room.
Man. And the players are just doing what they want, man. And it's not getting us wins. It's just not. On top of the injuries, I don't know what we got to do about that. That is ridiculous. We got to figure that out. And I think you're right with the rebuild. I think it's time to rebuild, trade a few players, get a few picks, and work with the draft. We gotta get this line together too, James. This shit is ridiculous, man.
Oh yeah, I mean it's crazy. I mean it's honestly insane. Like you're talking about 5th, 6th man on the depth chart.
Man, like holy fuck! I'm just lost for words with this team.
Yeah.
I came the first 2 weeks with so much hope, copium. I had it all, James. I had it all.
I'm right there with you, brother.
And I lost it, but that's it, James. Appreciate you, man. Love the work you do. Keep it up.
No problem. I'm 100% agreeing. Like, you kind of just got to put your hands up, man, because this is not the team that we saw in the first 2 games. Like, quite literally, it's not the same roster. So I'm not going to sit here and be like, damn, I got tricked. I didn't get tricked. Like, we got hurt. It was unfortunate. Things happen. And now it is what it is. Now, the bad part of that is that they're not even competitive. So I'm watching a minor league roster get dog walked for 3 hours every game. And that is not fun. But start the rebuild. If nothing else, the positive is it does give you an opportunity to get out of this cap hell and get out of the contracts. Because the Saints, for 20 years, have been a team where they just keep pushing the can down the road because they're winning. And okay. But the second you stop winning, you can't push that can down the road anymore. We're now hit that critical mass of whether it's injuries or whatever. You can't keep kicking the can down the road when you're getting these kind of results. So reset it and get us back with a whole new roster, a new identity, a new coaching staff. But yeah, I mean, right now it's absolutely brutal. The main event, Darius, take us home. Speakpipe, don't do this to me now. Speakpipe, don't do this to me now. Come on, let it rip with Darius.
Hey James, how you doing? Love the channel.
Thank you.
But I was coming on here basically to say that at one point in time I was a Dennis Allen fan due to his, he did have a great defensive scheme. I feel like it's worked for the past couple years, but I feel like the man is just having a hard time adjusting. And that's what makes a great coach, is being able to adjust to every situation. You see Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, all these coaches, they're able to get the best from their players even if they're not that great. They know how to utilize them and make them look great even if athletically or skill wise, intelligent wise, they may not be that great. And I feel like that's a main reason Dennis Allen got to go, because, I mean, any coach can make a good team look good. Our roster isn't bad when fully healthy, so we shouldn't look like a poverty team. But when our team goes down, like every team deals with, ours is a little worse this year, but they have to be able to adjust. They have to be able to make something from nothing, and he cannot do that. Also, with Derek Carr, I feel like we're staring at no rings. Like, we will not win a ring with Derek Carr, and that's the end goal of the NFL. So I feel like we're stuck in this odd spot where Dennis Allen has kind of just fumbled the bag. He's kind of just, left us with nothing. And even if we fire him tomorrow, we're still left with no cap space and bad.
No doubt. Like, this is not a fire Dennis Allen, turn up all of a sudden be competitive. This is we're starting from zero. And, kind of like you said, where like the whole no rings thing, the whole strategy with the Saints is remain relevant, remain baseline 9 wins. Then catch lightning in a bottle in some seasons and get to that 12 wins, get in the playoffs, make some noise, make a run. And just kind of fluctuate between that. That's the plan. The plan has never been be the 32nd defense in the NFL, because all of a sudden that like fluctuate between 9 wins and 12 wins and whatever. When you dip to 32nd in defense or 32nd in offense or worst team in the however, when you dip that far, it breaks the whole philosophy. And that's where we're at now. So we've dipped and the roster is just falling apart. I mean, the defense is the perfect example. Derek Carr, you mentioned Derek Carr. He has nothing to do with that defense. So the real problem is the side of the ball that should be really good. It's the part of the ball that has all pros, that's not injured, that's young. Like Kool-Aid, Marshawn, Ryan Brzee, Chase Young. Like, these are young players. These are good young guys. And they're giving you bottom of the barrel 30-second results. So, yeah, it's a clean house kind of thing. It's a clean house kind of party. And you mentioned winning rings. I don't even really see a path to like 8 wins with this team, because it's a USFL team. So forget winning rings. We've got to get back to like baseline average level of the NFL. I mean, we are staring into the abyss right now, my friend. All right, ladies and gentlemen, good stuff. That was a lot of calls. Well over an hour, probably like 25 calls. Thank you very much for utilizing SpeakPipe. I appreciate y'all calling in with your thoughts, concerns, questions. I'll be here. I'll be here every damn day as we go through this rebuild. And I did not see this coming this year. And, didn't see the injuries happening. Didn't see the defense being 32nd. Not in my wildest dreams did I think we would have the 32nd ranked defense, a historically bad defense, maybe the worst defense in Saints history. Never in my wildest dreams did I think that was happening. Thank you for the calls, ladies and gentlemen. I will see you in the next video.